today's news we'll be looking at the global decline in bee diversity over the past decade. There are around 20,000 described bee species worldwide. Most of these are solitary bees, which include 250 bumblebees and 9 species of honeybees. Over the past decade, the bee diversity has been diminishing around the globe as a result of land being used for agriculture for the increase in food demand and the rise in urbanisation to accommodate the increase in population. The main affecting factors for the decline in bee species are pesticides, habitat loss, climate change and disease, causing the bees' future to be uncertain. One of the major factors is the use of pesticides from modern intensive farming, which has disruptive impacts on the bee colonies. Global pesticides such as sulfoxaflor have been reported to show knock-on effects on the bee population. In recent research, the bumblebee species have displayed a decrease in body size and reduced the number of male offspring being produced when exposed to this pesticide. This has been published in the journal Nature. Consequences of this will influence the health of the bees' workforce, therefore creating harmful long-term effects on the bee colonies. Hi and welcome today. I'm going to ask you a few questions.
Cool.
System function without bees?
Probably very poorly, I would guess. I mean, in terms of you know, like they're very important for pollination, but you got to remember as well that the bees that we typically associate with are, we think about things like honeybees, bumblebees, hive-forming bees, but they actually represent only a very small fraction of the overall clade. You've got like wood-boring bees, mason bees, you know, and like these are all very important functional species in terms of like breakdown of like wood and forests and that kind of thing as well. So they're functional not only as pollinators but also as like a prey species, and also like functional in like the breakdown of various different materials in natural systems. So it would almost certainly, like ecosystem function would almost certainly be impacted by their presence, their presence or lack thereof. So yeah.
So the next one, what impacts of the loss of bee diversity will impact humans the most?
I think the main issue is that the pollination aspect is probably the most pertinent to humans, and I think that, I mean, I don't know, there's that Black Mirror episode, and like where they talk about like robot bees and things like that, and it's you know, I think the pertinent thing is the fact that it would cost, you know, exorbitant amounts of money to replace bees in terms of pollination, and ultimately that would end up favouring like countries that are more economically well developed, you know, and and more technologically developed as well. So you then have that disparity between, like, you know, rich, well-off countries and poor countries.
What would you advise for people at home to become more bee friendly?
I guess there's multiple things. You can directly probably improve like bee diversity and fitness by, you know, if you've got areas in your garden that you just allow to go a bit wild, that's beneficial to all insect life and also bees. You know, you can promote that with the planting of bee-friendly flowers and like meadow flowers, that kind of thing. Provide space for bees as well. There's lots of different, you can get bee boxes now, which are there for solitary bees, solitary bees. If you want to go whole hog, you can provide hive space, you know, both for honeybees in a more rigid structure, or things like bumblebees do very well if you have holes dug with like plant pots in them. So there's various different things you can do to make space for bees in the home. I mean, beyond that, I guess it makes sense to avoid fruit and veg that's been exposed to a lot of pesticides. So that kind of points to the you know, pushing more towards organic fruit and veg perhaps. And one thing that's like going to affect bees, it's going to affect us all, is climate change as well. And I think one of the big impacts, which isn't really spoken about enough, is that with increased increased anthropogenic reduction of CO2. You're getting more unpredictable climates and things like that. You're having more, freak weather events which disrupt the yearly cycle and cause like mass mortality in bees as well as plenty of other animals as well, particularly in Northern Europe. So I think it seems like an obvious point to say let's reduce our carbon emissions, but that would solve a lot of ills.
Thank you for answering the questions and joining us for today.
Thanks very much.
Give us our predicting and fearing a future without bees and the effect this could have on our population. So I'm here with Pranav to talk about how that could possibly affect us. Pranav?
Bees are vital pollinators and it's really necessary for food production, especially with crops like apples and carrots and onions.
Definitely.
Without bees, we'd see a huge decrease in food production, up to 2/3. And while
That's quite the assumption.
there is a lack of research done on this side because we can't predict all the different factors that are involved when bees are lost. With our rising population, we're going to have to be increasing food production by the use of pesticides and monoculture of genetically modified crop, and this is detrimental to the bees' population growth. And these effects will, in return, decrease the amount of food we're producing, and this can lead to cases of malnutrition and famine in certain countries. And since there is not enough research being done currently, environmental policies and their effects are still pretty vague, and there are alternatives that people have looked at for pollinating our crops, such as robot bees.
Does sound quite sci-fi.
Yes, and it's a theory that we can see in the future. It's a possibility, but it will be expensive, and we will be replacing real living organisms with artificial pollinators, which would be very difficult to balance into a healthy ecosystem.
So we could lose some potential ecosystem services.
Yeah, replacing ecosystem services with artificial methods is a bad sign for humans, and it feels like there'll be many ethical issues with replacing living organisms with robots.
Okay, well I think that's all we have time for. Thank you for joining us today, and see you soon.
Well, thank you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, can you tell us about the causes of loss of bee diversity we've been seeing recently?
Well, there hasn't been a specific cause identified, but companies such as World Bee Project have found that a loss in flower diversity in the countryside has led to a decrease in diversity seen amongst pollinators and bees.
We as a community can help like these bees, can we not?
Yeah, with bees you need to plant a more diverse range of flowers in your garden, such as lavenders, mangerums and egg-lasting wildflowers, amongst many. And you can also allow the weeds that grow in your garden to stay for a while longer, like 2 or 3 more weeks, to allow them to be used by the bee population and other pollinators to help increase diversity amongst them and lower the stress on resources amongst the bee population.
We've noticed that more beekeepers have been keeping honeybees in areas such as London, and there's been a large increase.
Yeah, in London it's said that they've had the highest concentration of beekeepers compared to the rest of the country, and this is seen as a problem, as it means there's more strain on resources in a city such as London, which in the environment isn't as green. And then you also have that coupled with the fact that with a higher abundance you have a higher chance of bee diseases such as American foul breed.
What can you tell us about the projects in place currently to help the bee diversity?
One, as I stated earlier, was the World Bee Project, which is currently looking at the causes and the ways we can help improve the bees. And we also have Bee Base, which is looking at making smart bees, which is a smart management of resilient bee populations. And they're planning to use molecular techniques to help and try and make bees more resilient to diseases and other factors. And this in turn, if proven successful, will be applied to other populations of pollinators, so they can use this to make more diverse, and that should really help the problem that we're seeing.
Well, thank you for coming out here. I've enjoyed this.